House will come to order. Prayer by the chaplain.
Let us pray. Good and gracious God, today we commend to you these faithful servant leaders who labor within these walls, the representatives and the staff, as well as their dear loved ones who support them in their calling. We commend them to your guidance and loving care. We thank you for the opportunity to serve. Give us the wisdom, strength, and courage needed to serve in a good way. Bless the work of this house, that it may benefit the people of Minnesota and lead us all into a stronger sense of community and a shared sense of responsibility for our lives together. Amen.
Members' House Chaplain for the day is our very own House Chaplain, Reverend Grady St. Dennis. Please remain standing and join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Clerk will take the roll. Clerk will close the roll. A quorum is present. The clerk will read the journal for the preceding day.
Journal of the House, 87th Session, 2012, 66 days, St. Paul, Minnesota, Thursday, January 26, 2012.
If there are no objections, further reading of the journal will be dispensed with, and the journal will stand as corrected by the chief clerk. Hearing no objection, journal stands as corrected by the chief clerk. Reports of standing committees and divisions. A copy of the non-controversial, copy of this order of business has been placed at each member's desk. If there are no objections, reports will be adopted. Hearing no objections, reports are adopted. Second reading of House files.
Second reading, House File 56.
Second reading.
Second reading, House File 300.
Second reading.
Second reading, House File 545.
Second reading.
Second reading, House File 1515.
Second reading.
Second reading, House File 1585.
Second reading.
Second reading, House File 1770.
Second reading.
Second reading, House File 1829.
Second reading.
Second reading, House File 1879.
Second reading. Second reading of Senate files.
Second reading, Senate File 149.
Second reading.
Second reading, Senate File 373.
Second reading.
Second reading, Senate File 429.
Second reading.
Second reading, Senate File 530.
Second reading. Introduction and first reading of House files. The following House files have been offered for introduction today. The chief clerk will report these House files and give them their first reading.
Introduction and first reading of House Files 1987 through 2033.
First reading, House File 1987 through 2033. Motions and resolutions. A copy of the non-controversial motions at the desk and online. If there are no objections, we'll take action on these first. Hearing no objections, the motions prevail.
The EPK moves that House File 1242 be recalled from the Committee on Governmental Operations and Elections and re-referred to the Committee on Taxes.
Call the member from Hennepin, Representative Depke, to your motion.
Thank you, Speaker Zellers. The House File 1242 relates to the Hennepin mortgage deed tax. I have spoken with with the two chairs, and they recommend that it go to the Committee on Government Operations and away from that committee and re-referred to the Committee on Taxes. And I'd like to make a motion to that effect.
Discussion to the motion. Seeing no further discussion, the motion is adopted.
Runbeck moves that House File 1872 be recalled from the Committee on Public Safety, Crime Prevention, Policy, and Finance, be referred to the Committee on Judiciary Policy and Finance.
The member from Anoka, Representative Runbeck, to your motion.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd move that House File 1872 be recalled from the Committee on Public Safety and Crime Prevention, Policy, and Finance, and be re-referred to the Committee on Judiciary Policy and Finance. Thank you.
Discussion to the Runbeck motion. Seeing no further discussion, the motion prevails.
Hoppe moves that Senate File 247 be recalled from the Committee on Health and Human Services Reform and re-referred to the Committee on Education Finance.
Call the member from Carver, Representative Hoppe, to your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker and members, this is a bill that passed the Health and Human Services Finance Committee last year, was sent to the floor. We did not act on it last year, so at the end of last year it was re-referred back to committee. Both committee chairs, Gottwalt and Garofalo, would like to have this move. I've spoken to both of them, and Representative Garofalo wants to see the bill, and I'm fine with that. Thank you.
Discussion to the Hoppe motion. The member from Olmsted, Representative Liebling, to the Hoppe motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would Representative Hoppe yield to question?
He will yield. Representative Liebling.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Hoppe, did I understand you correctly that this bill never did go to health care reform? And if not, are you telling us that there's no health reform issue in it? I'm just trying to take a quick look at it here. It's kind of hard to do on the fly. I guess I'd like to hear a little bit more.
Member from Carver, Representative Hoppe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And Representative Liebling, it did get heard in that committee last year. It passed. It came to the House floor, and we did not act on it. It went back to the possession of the HHS Reform Committee, and Representative Garofalo would like to see it in the Education Committee, so we're going to send it there.
Further discussion to the Hoppe motion. Seeing no further discussion, the motion prevails.
Atkins moves that Senate File 373, now in the General Register, be re-referred to the Committee on Commerce and Regulatory Reform.
The member from Dakota, Representative Atkins, to your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm sure that this was probably just the chair of the Commerce Committee's oversight and a minor one at that, Chairman Hoppe. This is Senate File 373 that's for some reason came directly to the House floor. It would shorten the statute of limitations that apply to most common business claims, and therefore the motion is that it would come to the Commerce Committee. And Mr. Speaker, I'd ask for a roll call, please.
Representative Atkins requests a roll call. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call on the Atkins motion. Discussion to the Atkins motion. The member from Carver, Representative Hoppe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and Representative Atkins and members. I did take a quick look at 373, and it was heard in another committee. I can't remember if this one was Judiciary or Civil Law, but I didn't see anything in there where it's regulating any industry, and I don't think that it needs to come to the Commerce Committee.
Discussion to the Hoppe motion. The member from Dakota, to the Atkins motion. Member from Dakota, Representative Atkins, to your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'll be brief. The point of this is that it actually shortens the statute of limitations that small businesses have in which to pursue breach of contract claims. It cuts it by a third, the amount of time that a small business has to pursue its claim in a breach of contract claim. So if you are pro-small business, then you probably at least want this to go to the Business Committee, namely the Commerce Committee. If you don't care about small businesses, then let it just ride its way to the floor, and we'll take it up on Wednesday. But this is all about small business and their ability to bring claims. They are the ones that bring breach of contract claims, folks. It's a pro-business vote to vote green on this motion and send it to the Business Committee.
Discussion. The member from Carver, Representative Hoppe, to the Atkins motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, members, we are the Business Committee, and if you do talk to small businesses, one of the big problems they have in the state of Minnesota is lawsuit reform. I think if you talk to any of the major groups that come here to the Capitol and represent small businesses, I think that they're glad that we're going to be acting on this bill on Wednesday, and I would encourage you to respectfully vote no on the Atkins motion.
Further discussion. The member from Hennepin, Representative Thiessen, to
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think Representative Hoppe just made the argument for actually taking this to Commerce. He said, it sounds to me like you've heard from all kinds of businesses who apparently want, or at least their representative groups, whether it's the actual businesses themselves is always a question, I suppose, but the groups that make money out of pushing bills like this should come to your committee because you're the committee that deals with business issues. So I think, Representative Hoppe, you just made exactly the argument, right, that it should come to your committee. So I think we should all vote green on this.
Further discussion. The member from Carver, Representative Hoppe, to the Atkins motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and Representative Thiessen and members. For the record, I don't think that I've heard from one small business or business organization that would like this bill to go back to the Commerce Committee.
Further discussion. Seeing no further discussion, a roll call being requested on the motion. The clerk will take the roll. Clerk will close the roll. There being 60 ayes and 67 nays, the motion to re-refer does not prevail.
Atkins moves that Senate File 429, now on the General Register, be re-referred to the Committee on Commerce and Regulatory Reform.
The member from Dakota, Representative Atkins, to your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That last one was just a warm-up. This one falls squarely within the purview of the Commerce Committee. This is Senate File 429. It limits recoveries for workplace cases, most notably sexual harassment claims and discrimination cases. It limits recoveries for agricultural businesses and farmers. It limits recoveries for disabled people bringing warranty claims. It limits recoveries in fraud cases, and it limits the impact of contracts on soldiers serving on active duty. So it deals with contracts, antitrust, fraud, agricultural businesses, and workplace cases, including sexual harassment and workplace discrimination. It ought to go to the Commerce Committee, and I would move that it go there. And, Mr. Speaker, I'd request a roll call, please.
Representative Atkins requests a roll call. Seeing 15 hands, there will be a roll call on the motion to re-refer. Discussion to the Atkins motion. The member from Carver, Representative Hoppe.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker and members and Representative Atkins. A lot of the same arguments pertain, I think, to this bill. And I think when we start looking at bills and where they could be referred, Representative Atkins mentioned agriculture. We could refer this to the Agriculture Committee as well. Members, I don't think we need to refer every bill to every committee. I don't think that this needs to come to the Commerce Committee. And again, respectfully, I would urge people to vote no on the Atkins amendment or motion.
Discussion to the Atkins motion to re-refer. Further discussion. Seeing no further discussion, a roll call being requested. Clerk will take the roll on the motion. The clerk will close the roll. There being 60 ayes and 67 nays, the motion to re-refer does not prevail. Announcements. Announcements. Member from Scott, Representative Woodard.
Mr. Speaker, I rise for a point of personal privilege.
State your point of personal privilege, Representative Woodard.
Mr. Speaker and members, this week is Catholic Schools Week, and on your desks you will see a House resolution commemorating Catholic Schools Week. And with a 98% high school graduation rate and over 97% of our Catholic school kids going on to college or serving in our armed forces, our Catholic schools in Minnesota have a lot to be proud of. And on behalf of the thousands of Minnesotans who have benefited from a Catholic education, this week we honor the educators and administrators who faithfully serve the Catholic school kids in the state of Minnesota. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Woodard. Further announcements? See no further announcements. The member from Washington, Representative Dean.
Mr. Speaker, I move that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 12 noon Wednesday, February 1st, 2012.
Representative Dean moves when the House adjourns today, adjourns until 12 noon Wednesday, February 1st, 2012. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The motion prevails. Representative Dean.
I move the House do now adjourn.
Representative Dean moves that the House do now adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The motion prevails. The House stands adjourned until 12 noon Wednesday, February 1st, 2012.